Picture this: you're 8 years old, standing in your grandmother's kitchen on a summer afternoon. Sunlight streams through lace curtains, casting dancing shadows on the worn wooden table. The smell of vanilla and cinnamon fills the air from cookies cooling on a rack. Your grandmother shows you a photograph for just 30 seconds, a bustling marketplace in a faraway land, filled with countless faces, colorful fabrics, and intricate details. She puts the picture away and you close your eyes. Suddenly, you can see it all again, every single detail, as if the image is still right there before you, painted on the inside of your eyelids with perfect clarity. This is the world of eidetic memory, a phenomenon so rare and mysterious that most of us will never truly experience it. Tonight, we're diving deep into the fascinating realm of the mind's perfect photograph, exploring why some children can hold entire images in their minds like living paintings, and why this remarkable ability seems to fade like morning mist as we grow older. Now settle in, pull that blanket a little closer, and let's explore together the beautiful mystery of eidetic memory, where the line between seeing and remembering becomes wonderfully, mysteriously blurred. Chapter 1: The Mind's Perfect Photograph. In the gentle quiet of our evening together, let's begin by understanding what eidetic memory really is, and perhaps more importantly, what it isn't. The term itself comes from the Greek word eidos, meaning form or image, and it describes something far more specific and rare than what popular culture often portrays. True eidetic memory isn't simply having a good memory for visual details. It's not the ability to quickly memorize a deck of cards or recall a long list of numbers. Instead, it's the capacity to retain a vivid, detailed mental image of something you've seen, almost as if you're still looking at it, even after it's been removed from view. Imagine being able to see a photograph in your mind with such clarity that you could count the buttons on a stranger's coat, or describe the exact pattern of shadows on a cobblestone street, not from memory, but as if the image were still right there before you. The distinction between eidetic memory and what we often call photographic memory is crucial, though the terms are frequently confused. Photographic memory suggests the ability to recall any visual information with perfect accuracy, like a camera capturing and storing images. But this kind of perfect, permanent visual recall doesn't actually exist in the way movies and books would have us believe. Even people with exceptional memory abilities don't truly see perfect photographs in their minds. Eidetic memory, on the other hand, is more like having a particularly vivid afterimage that lasts much longer than usual. You know that brief moment after looking at a bright light when you can still see its shape when you close your eyes. Eidetic memory is similar, but instead of lasting a few seconds, these mental images can persist for minutes or even hours, and they're incredibly detailed. What makes this phenomenon even more intriguing is how extraordinarily rare it is. Studies suggest that only about 2–15% of children show any signs of eidetic ability, and among adults, true eidetic memory is so uncommon that some researchers question whether it exists at all in the adult population. This rarity has made eidetic memory something of a holy grail in memory research, fascinating to study, but difficult to find and even harder to verify. The fleeting nature of eidetic memory adds another layer to its mystery. Unlike our regular memories, which can last a lifetime, eidetic images are surprisingly fragile. They can be disrupted by something as simple as moving your eyes or by any attempt to verbally describe what you're seeing. It's as if these mental images exist in a delicate balance, requiring perfect stillness of mind to maintain. This fragility might seem like a limitation, but it actually helps researchers distinguish true eidetic memory from other forms of exceptional recall. When someone with genuine eidetic ability tries to describe their mental image out loud, the image often fades or disappears entirely, like mist dissolving in the morning sun. This isn't a failure of memory. It's actually a sign that what they're experiencing is the real thing. Chapter 2: Through a Child's Eyes. There's something magical about the way children see the world, isn't there? Their eyes seem to catch details we adults miss, and their minds hold onto images with a vividness that often amazes us. This natural wonder of childhood perception becomes even more extraordinary when we consider that eidetic memory appears almost exclusively in children, typically between the ages of 6 and 12. Imagine little Emma, 7 years old, sitting in a psychology laboratory that feels more like a cozy playroom. A researcher shows her a detailed picture of a forest scene: tall trees with intricate bark patterns, scattered wildflowers in the undergrowth, a small stream winding between moss-covered rocks, and perhaps a red cardinal perched on a low branch. After just 30 seconds of looking at this complex image, the picture is taken away. But for Emma, it's not really gone. She closes her eyes and can still see the forest spread out before her like a living photograph. She can count the flowers, describe the pattern of light filtering through the leaves, and even point to where the cardinal sits on its branch. Her eyes move as if she's scanning across a real scene, and her descriptions are so detailed and accurate that it's clear she's not just remembering, she's still seeing. This is the world of eidetic memory as it appears in childhood, and it's a phenomenon that has captivated researchers for decades. Children with eidetic abilities often describe their experiences in wonderfully concrete terms. They might say the image is right there, or point to a specific spot in front of them where they see it. Unlike adults, who tend to describe visual memories as thoughts or impressions, these children are quite literal about their ongoing visual experience. The prevalence of eidetic memory in children, while still rare, is significantly higher than in adults. Some studies have found that up to 15% of children show some degree of eidetic ability, though true, strong eidetic memory is found in only about 2–5% of children tested. These numbers might seem small, but they represent a fascinating window into how differently the developing brain processes and retains visual information. What makes the childhood manifestation of eidetic memory particularly interesting is how naturally these children accept their unusual ability. To them, it's not extraordinary, it's simply how they see the world. They might assume everyone can hold detailed images in their minds the way they can. It's only when researchers begin testing and questioning that the uniqueness of their experience becomes apparent. The testing process itself often reveals the authentic, unself-conscious nature of children's eidetic experiences. Unlike adults who might try to impress researchers or second-guess their responses, children with eidetic memory simply report what they see. They might pause mid-description, saying something like, "Oh, now it's getting fuzzy," or "I can't see the bird anymore," providing real-time commentary on how their mental image changes and fades. These young individuals often show remarkable accuracy in their descriptions, but they also demonstrate the characteristic limitations of eidetic images. They can't usually manipulate or change what they see. They can't make the cardinal fly to a different branch or change the color of the flowers. The image remains static, like looking at a photograph, but one that gradually becomes less clear over time. The stories that emerge from research with these children are often touching and illuminating. Some describe how they use their ability to remember special moments, like being able to see again a birthday party or a day at the beach. Others find it helpful for schoolwork, though interestingly, the fragile nature of eidetic images means they're not always practical for academic tasks. As we'll explore in our next chapter, this remarkable childhood ability faces an inevitable twilight. The very developmental changes that help children grow and learn seem to gradually dim the vivid clarity of eidetic memory, leading us to one of the most poignant aspects of this phenomenon: its beautiful, temporary nature. Chapter 3: The Fascinating Fade. There's a bittersweet quality to the story of eidetic memory, like watching a sunset that's too beautiful to last. As children grow and develop, this remarkable visual ability gradually fades away, usually disappearing entirely by adolescence. It's one of nature's most intriguing mysteries. Why would our brains give up such an apparently useful skill? Picture Sarah at age 12, sitting in the same psychology lab she visited 5 years earlier. The researcher shows her the same forest scene that once bloomed in perfect detail behind her closed eyes. This time, when the image is removed, Sarah closes her eyes and pauses. "I can kind of see it," she says hesitantly, "but it's not like before. It's more like remembering seeing it." The crystal-clear mental photograph has become something softer, more impressionistic, still a memory, but no longer the vivid, persistent image she once experienced. This transformation is remarkably consistent across the small population of children who possess eidetic abilities. By the time they reach their mid-teens, the vast majority will have lost the capacity entirely. It's not that their overall memory gets worse. Often, these individuals go on to have perfectly normal or even exceptional memories. But the specific ability to hold detailed visual images in their minds, like living photographs, simply fades away. The timing of this fade coincides with crucial developments in brain maturation. During childhood, our brains are incredibly plastic, with neural pathways still forming and strengthening. The visual processing systems are still developing, and it's possible that eidetic memory represents a temporary state in this developmental process. Perhaps a side effect of how young brains initially organize and store visual information. As children's brains mature, several important changes occur. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive functions and abstract thinking, becomes more developed. Language skills become more sophisticated and dominant in cognitive processing. The brain becomes more efficient at categorizing and interpreting visual information rather than simply storing it in raw detail. These developments, wonderful as they are for overall cognitive growth, seem to crowd out the simpler, more direct visual retention that characterizes eidetic memory. Some researchers theorize that eidetic memory might actually be incompatible with advanced cognitive development. Our mature brains are incredibly efficient at extracting meaning and patterns from visual information, quickly categorizing what we see and connecting it to our existing knowledge. This efficiency is tremendously useful. It allows us to navigate complex social situations, understand abstract concepts, and make rapid decisions based on incomplete information. But this same efficiency might make it difficult to maintain the kind of detailed, unprocessed visual images that define eidetic memory. It's as if our brains, in becoming more sophisticated, trade the ability to see mental photographs for the capacity to understand and manipulate complex ideas. The fade of eidetic memory also correlates with the development of what psychologists call verbal encoding, our increasing tendency to translate visual experiences into words. Young children often think in images and sensations, but as we grow older, we become more likely to describe our experiences to ourselves in words, even as they're happening. This internal narration might interfere with the pure visual retention that eidetic memory requires. Interestingly, the few cases of eidetic-like abilities persisting into adulthood often occur in individuals with certain neurological differences or developmental conditions. This suggests that typical brain development might indeed be incompatible with maintaining eidetic memory. The very changes that help us become cognitively mature adults also close the door on this particular form of visual experience. There's something deeply moving about this natural progression. It speaks to the different gifts that come with different stages of life. The clear, detailed images of childhood eidetic memory give way to something perhaps more valuable: the ability to understand metaphor, to see patterns across time, to imagine possibilities that don't yet exist. We trade the camera-like clarity of eidetic images for the creative, interpretive power of mature human consciousness. For the few individuals who experienced true eidetic memory as children, the loss can be profound. Many describe a sense of mourning for this departed ability, like losing a sense they once relied upon. Yet they also often express gratitude for having experienced this unique way of seeing, even temporarily. It becomes part of their personal history, a reminder of the extraordinary capacities hidden within ordinary human development. Chapter 4: Testing the Waters of Memory. In quiet laboratories around the world, researchers have spent decades trying to capture and understand eidetic memory, like naturalists studying a rare and elusive creature. The challenge of testing for true eidetic ability has led to some fascinating experimental designs and surprising discoveries about the nature of visual memory itself. The classic test for eidetic memory has an almost magical quality to it. Imagine a child sitting comfortably in a softly lit room, perhaps with gentle music playing in the background to help them relax. The researcher presents a detailed image, maybe a busy street scene with dozens of people, signs in foreign languages, architectural details, passing cars, and a complex interplay of light and shadow. The child studies this image for 30 seconds, drinking in every detail. Then the image is removed and the real test begins. "Can you still see the picture?" the researcher asks gently. A child with true eidetic memory will nod and begin describing not just what they remember, but what they're actively seeing in their mind's eye. Their eyes might move as if scanning across the mental image, pausing at different areas as they describe specific details. What makes these tests particularly revealing is their precision. Researchers might ask incredibly specific questions. How many birds are perched on the telephone wire? What color is the scarf worn by the woman in the blue coat? Can you read the sign in the bakery window? Children with genuine eidetic abilities can often answer these questions with startling accuracy, describing details they couldn't possibly have memorized in the brief viewing time. But here's where the tests become even more intriguing. Researchers have discovered that true eidetic images have very specific characteristics. They can be disrupted or destroyed by certain actions if the child moves their eyes too much, or if they try to describe the image in too much detail. The mental picture often fades or disappears entirely. This fragility actually serves as a marker of authenticity. Someone using conventional memory strategies could continue describing what they remembered even after eye movement, but a genuine eidetic image is much more delicate. One particularly clever experimental approach involves showing children images that are designed to reveal the difference between memory and ongoing visual experience. Researchers might present a picture of a complex scene with small details hidden throughout. A tiny mouse behind a flower pot, a partially obscured street number, faces in windows. Children with eidetic memory can often spot these hidden elements while viewing their mental image, just as they would if the original picture were still in front of them. The testing process has also revealed the temporal nature of eidetic images. Most children who show eidetic abilities can maintain their mental images for anywhere from a few minutes to about half an hour, with the clarity gradually diminishing over time. Researchers track this fading process, documenting how different aspects of the image disappear first. Often the background details fade, while central objects remain clear longer. Perhaps most fascinating are the tests that reveal what doesn't constitute eidetic memory. Many individuals who believe they have exceptional visual memory turn out to be using sophisticated conventional memory techniques. They might have excellent visual recall, but when tested under controlled conditions, they show the flexibility and durability that characterizes normal memory, rather than the rigid, fragile nature of true eidetic images. Some of the most compelling research has involved brain imaging studies of individuals during eidetic experiences. When a person with eidetic memory is seeing their mental image, brain scans show activation in the visual cortex, remarkably similar to what occurs during actual seeing. It's as if their brains are genuinely processing visual information, even though no external image is present. The rarity of true eidetic memory has made research challenging. Scientists sometimes spend years searching for genuine subjects, and many studies involve only a handful of individuals. This scarcity has led to some creative approaches, including longitudinal studies that follow the same children over many years, documenting how their eidetic abilities change and eventually fade. The testing protocols have also had to account for cultural and linguistic factors. Images that seem neutral to researchers from one background might be confusing or emotionally charged for children from different cultures. This has led to the development of more universally comprehensible test images and a greater awareness of how cultural context affects visual perception and memory. Modern technology has opened new possibilities for eidetic memory research. Virtual reality environments allow researchers to create controlled, immersive visual experiences that can be precisely replicated and modified. Eye tracking technology provides detailed information about how individuals with eidetic abilities scan their mental images. These advances are helping scientists understand not just whether eidetic memory exists, but how it works in the intricate machinery of the human brain. Chapter 5: Famous Minds and Extraordinary Recall. Throughout history, certain individuals have captured our imagination with their seemingly impossible feats of memory, becoming legendary figures whose abilities blur the line between fact and folklore. Tonight, let's explore some of these remarkable minds and separate the documented abilities from the myths that have grown around them like ivy around ancient walls. Perhaps no name is more associated with extraordinary memory than that of Kim Peek, the real-life inspiration behind the movie Rain Man. Kim's abilities were truly astounding. He could read 2 pages of a book simultaneously, one with each eye, and retain virtually everything he absorbed. He memorized over 12,000 books in his lifetime, could provide driving directions between any 2 cities in North America, and knew the zip codes, area codes, and television stations for thousands of locations. When someone mentioned a date, Kim could immediately tell you what day of the week it fell on and what historical events occurred on that day. But Kim's extraordinary abilities came with significant challenges. He had developmental disabilities that affected his daily functioning, and his incredible memory was part of a complex neurological condition. Brain scans revealed that Kim was born without the corpus callosum, the bundle of nerve fibers that typically connects the brain's 2 hemispheres. This unusual brain structure might have contributed to his remarkable memory abilities, allowing information to be processed and stored in ways that typical brains cannot achieve. The story of Solomon Shereshevsky, studied extensively by Russian neuropsychologist Alexander Luria, reads like something from a fantasy novel. Shereshevsky seemed to have unlimited memory capacity. He could memorize enormous lists of words, numbers, or nonsense syllables, and recall them perfectly years later. His memory was intensely synesthetic, meaning his senses were interconnected in unusual ways. He saw numbers as having specific colors and textures, heard sounds as having visual shapes, and could taste words. But Shereshevsky's extraordinary memory became a burden as much as a gift. He struggled to forget irrelevant information, his mind constantly cluttered with vivid sensory memories. He had difficulty with abstract concepts and metaphors because every word triggered such specific, concrete sensory associations. His case illustrates the complex relationship between memory and normal cognitive function. Sometimes, forgetting is just as important as remembering. Moving into more contemporary examples, we encounter individuals like Daniel Tammet, who can perform incredible mathematical calculations in his head and memorized over 22,000 digits of pi. Daniel describes his numerical experiences in beautifully poetic terms. He sees numbers as landscapes of color and texture, with each digit having its own personality and emotional tone. His memory abilities are intertwined with his synesthesia and autism, creating a unique cognitive architecture that allows for extraordinary recall in specific domains. Stephen Wiltshire, known as the human camera, can draw incredibly detailed cityscapes entirely from memory after viewing them for just a short time. His architectural drawings capture not just the general layout of buildings, but precise details like the number of windows, architectural ornaments, and even cars parked on specific streets. Stephen's abilities seem to bridge the gap between memory and artistic expression, suggesting that extraordinary recall can manifest in creative as well as purely informational ways. The historical record is filled with accounts of individuals whose memory abilities bordered on the legendary. Mozart supposedly could write down entire musical compositions after hearing them just once. Arturo Toscanini conducted orchestral performances entirely from memory, knowing not just every note of hundreds of musical pieces, but every instrumental part. Theodore Roosevelt was said to read several books a day and could recall specific passages years later. But here's where we must tread carefully in our exploration. Many of these historical accounts, while inspiring, are difficult to verify with the rigor that modern research demands. The stories often grow in the telling, and what might have been exceptional but human abilities become transformed into superhuman perfection through repeated narration. This distinction becomes crucial when we consider modern claims of photographic memory. Many individuals who believe they possess perfect visual recall turn out, under controlled testing conditions, to be using sophisticated but conventional memory techniques. Their abilities are impressive and worthy of admiration, but they don't represent the kind of literal visual persistence that true eidetic memory would entail. The memory champions who compete in international competitions demonstrate this beautifully. Their feats are genuinely extraordinary, memorizing the order of multiple shuffled decks of cards, thousands of random numbers, or the names and faces of hundreds of strangers. But when researchers study these individuals, they find that they're using learnable techniques like the method of loci, memory palaces, visual association systems, and other strategic approaches to encoding and retrieval. What these memory athletes prove is perhaps more inspiring than perfect recall would be. They show us that ordinary human brains, with training and technique, are capable of remarkable feats. Their abilities demonstrate the incredible plasticity and potential of normal memory systems, suggesting that most of us vastly underestimate our own cognitive capabilities. The line between extraordinary memory and true eidetic ability remains an important one to draw. While we celebrate the remarkable individuals who push the boundaries of human recall, we must also appreciate that their abilities, impressive as they are, operate within the realm of enhanced but fundamentally normal memory processes. As we continue our journey tonight, we'll explore how understanding these distinctions leads us to appreciate both the rarity of true eidetic memory and the remarkable potential that lies within more ordinary forms of human recall. Chapter 6: The Memory Palace Builders. In the soft glow of candlelight, ancient orators once stood before vast audiences, delivering speeches that could last for hours without a single note or scroll to guide them. They navigated through complex arguments and elaborate narratives, using something far more powerful than written words. They used the architecture of imagination itself. Tonight, we explore the fascinating world of memory palaces and the techniques that allow ordinary minds to achieve seemingly impossible feats of recall. The method of loci, or memory palace technique, has roots stretching back over 25 years to ancient Greece and Rome. Legend tells us that the poet Simonides discovered this technique after a tragic building collapse at a banquet. When called away from the feast just before the roof caved in, Simonides was able to identify the crushed victims by remembering exactly where each guest had been sitting. This experience taught him that spatial memory, our ability to remember locations and navigate through familiar places, could be harnessed to remember anything at all. Imagine walking through your childhood home in your mind. You can probably navigate from room to room with ease, seeing the layout clearly even decades later. The wooden stairs that creaked on the third step, the way afternoon light slanted through the kitchen window, the particular smell of the hallway closet, these memories are vivid and enduring because they're anchored in space. Memory palace builders take this natural human ability and transform it into a precision tool for recall. Dominic O'Brien, 8-time world memory champion, describes his memory palaces as living, breathing spaces. He might use his childhood school to memorize a deck of cards, placing each card character at specific locations throughout the building. The Queen of Hearts becomes his third-grade teacher, standing beside the classroom door. The Seven of Spades transforms into a specific visual scene playing out in the gymnasium. By walking through this familiar space in his mind, he can recall all 52 cards in perfect order. What makes these techniques so powerful is how they work with, rather than against, the natural tendencies of human memory. Our brains are exceptionally good at remembering stories, images, locations, and emotional connections. Memory palace builders create elaborate narratives that weave together the information they want to remember, anchoring abstract data to concrete, memorable images. Consider how Joshua Foer, author of Moonwalking with Einstein, describes his journey from average memory to memory championship level in just 1 year. He learned to transform mundane lists of numbers into bizarre, unforgettable stories. A sequence like 74, 23, 89 might become a vivid scene of Albert Einstein, 74 in his personal coding system, playing basketball 23. His code for Michael Jordan with a particularly strange-looking octopus 89. The more outrageous and emotionally engaging the image, the more memorable it becomes. These memory artists don't possess fundamentally different brains than the rest of us. Brain imaging studies show that during memory tasks, they activate the same neural networks we all use, just more efficiently and strategically. Their spatial processing areas light up intensely as they navigate their mental palaces, and their visual cortex becomes highly active as they construct and recall elaborate images. The beauty of these techniques lies in their accessibility. Anyone can build a memory palace, though like any skill, it requires practice and patience to master. The process begins with selecting a familiar location, your home, workplace, or a route you travel regularly. Then you establish a consistent path through this space, always moving in the same direction and stopping at specific, well-defined locations. The art comes in transforming the information you want to remember into vivid, often absurd images that you place at each location. If you're memorizing a grocery list, milk might become a cow doing ballet in your living room, while eggs transform into a juggling act performed by chickens on your kitchen counter. The key is to make these images as unusual, emotional, or humorous as possible. Our brains are naturally wired to remember things that stand out from the ordinary. What's particularly fascinating about memory palace techniques is how they reveal the difference between memory capacity and memory strategy. Most of us assume that people with exceptional memories must have some kind of superior hardware, better brains, with more storage capacity. But research with memory champions suggests that the difference lies primarily in software, better techniques and strategies for encoding and retrieving information. This distinction becomes especially relevant when we compare memory palace techniques to true eidetic memory. While both can produce seemingly impossible feats of recall, they operate through entirely different mechanisms. Memory palace builders actively construct and manipulate their mental images, using creativity and strategy to link information together. Eidetic memory, by contrast, appears to be a passive retention of visual information in its original form. The training process for becoming proficient with memory palaces reveals just how adaptable human memory can be. Beginners might start by memorizing simple lists, gradually building up to more complex information like historical dates, foreign language vocabulary, or technical specifications. With practice, the process becomes increasingly automatic. Expert practitioners describe slipping into a focused, almost meditative state where images flow naturally, and locations populate themselves with memorable scenes. Modern memory competitions showcase these techniques in action, with participants memorizing hundreds of random words, multiple decks of shuffled cards, or long sequences of binary numbers in remarkably short periods. These competitions have created a global community of memory enthusiasts who share techniques, compete friendly rivalries, and continuously push the boundaries of what trained human memory can achieve. The practical applications extend far beyond competition. Medical students use memory palaces to master anatomy, with each organ system mapped to different rooms in their mental buildings. Language learners create vivid scenes to remember vocabulary and grammar rules. Business professionals use these techniques to remember names, faces, and important details about clients and colleagues. Perhaps most importantly, the study of memory palace techniques has changed our understanding of human cognitive potential. They demonstrate that the limitations we often assume about our memories are more flexible than we thought. While we may not be able to develop true eidetic memory as adults, we can certainly train our minds to achieve remarkable feats of recall through patience, practice, and the right strategies. Chapter 7: When Memory Becomes a Burden. In the gentle darkness of our midnight exploration, we must pause to consider a profound question. Is it possible to remember too much? While most of us struggle to recall where we placed our keys or what we had for lunch 3 days ago, there exist rare individuals for whom forgetting is nearly impossible, and their experiences reveal the unexpected wisdom hidden in our ordinary, imperfect memories. Jill Price discovered something extraordinary about herself in her mid-40s when she contacted researchers at UC Irvine with an unusual concern. She could remember, in vivid detail, almost every day of her life since childhood. Give her any date from the past 40 years, and she could tell you not just what she did that day, but what she wore, what the weather was like, what was happening in the news, and how she felt about it all. This wasn't a skill she had developed or trained. It was simply how her mind worked, whether she wanted it to or not. Jill became the first documented case of what researchers now call hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory. For someone with this condition, personal memories don't fade and blur the way they do for most of us. Instead, they remain crystal clear, accessible, and often emotionally charged, creating an internal archive that never stops collecting and never discards anything. Imagine living with a memory that refuses to let go. Every slight, every embarrassment, every moment of sadness remains as fresh and painful as the day it happened. Jill describes her memory as both a gift and a curse. While she can relive beautiful moments with perfect clarity, she's equally unable to escape from difficult experiences. The natural healing that comes with time, the way painful memories typically soften and lose their sting, simply doesn't occur for her. The research into hyperthymesia has revealed fascinating insights about the nature of memory itself. When scientists studied Jill's brain, they found structural differences in areas associated with autobiographical memory processing. Her brain seemed to be constantly consolidating experiences into long-term storage, creating what researchers describe as an unusually strong connection between memory encoding and emotional processing. But perhaps most intriguingly, individuals with hyperthymesia don't typically show exceptional memory for information outside their personal experiences. Jill isn't particularly good at memorizing random lists of words or faces of strangers. Her extraordinary recall seems specifically tuned to her own life story, suggesting that what we call memory might actually be several different systems working together in complex ways. The emotional weight of never forgetting presents unique psychological challenges. Most of us benefit from the way memory naturally edits our experiences over time. We tend to remember the highlights, both positive and negative, while the mundane details fade away. This selective retention helps us create coherent narratives about our lives and allows painful experiences to lose some of their immediate emotional impact. For someone with hyperthymesia, every day carries equal weight in memory. The minor frustration of a delayed flight 10 years ago feels as immediate as yesterday's joy. This constant presence of the past can make it difficult to live fully in the present, or to feel that any particular moment is special or significant. Dr. James McGaugh, who has studied several individuals with hyperthymesia, describes their condition as fundamentally changing the relationship between past and present. While most of us exist primarily in the current moment, with selected memories informing our experience, these individuals seem to inhabit multiple timeframes simultaneously. The discovery of hyperthymesia has also shed light on the protective function of normal forgetting. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "The advantage of a bad memory is that one enjoys the same good things for the first time several times." But perhaps more importantly, a normal memory allows us to heal from bad things, to learn from experiences without being perpetually trapped by them. Consider how this relates to trauma and recovery. Most therapeutic approaches to trauma rely partly on the natural fading of memory intensity over time, combined with the ability to reframe and reinterpret experiences. For someone who cannot forget, traditional healing processes become much more complicated. The study of hyperthymesia has revealed other interesting patterns. Many individuals with this condition report being highly organized and somewhat obsessive about documenting their lives. They often keep detailed diaries, save movie tickets and restaurant receipts, and create elaborate systems for cataloging their experiences. It's unclear whether this behavior contributes to their exceptional memory or results from it. There's also a fascinating temporal aspect to hyperthymesia. While these individuals can recall personal events with remarkable detail, their sense of time can become somewhat distorted. Events from years ago might feel as recent and immediate as things that happened last week. This compression of temporal experience can make it challenging to maintain perspective on life changes and personal growth. The neurological research has suggested that normal forgetting isn't simply a failure of memory systems. It's an active, important process. Our brains seem designed to prioritize certain memories while allowing others to fade. This selective retention helps us focus on what's most important, learn general principles from specific experiences, and maintain psychological well-being. Some researchers have theorized that conditions like hyperthymesia might represent a breakdown in the normal filtering systems that determine what gets retained in long-term memory. Instead of the usual selective process that preserves meaningful experiences while discarding routine details, everything gets stored with equal priority and accessibility. The personal stories of individuals with hyperthymesia often reveal a complex relationship with their unusual ability. While they sometimes appreciate being able to relive precious moments with perfect clarity, many also express a longing for the peace that comes with normal forgetting. They describe feeling envious of people who can let things go and move forward unencumbered by the full emotional weight of their entire personal history. This exploration of hyperthymesia brings us to a profound appreciation for the beautiful imperfection of normal human memory. Our tendency to forget details, to let painful experiences soften over time, and to remember the past through the lens of our current understanding. These aren't flaws in the system. They're features that allow us to learn, heal, and continue growing throughout our lives. Chapter 8: The Cultural Tapestry of Memory. As we settle deeper into our midnight exploration, let's travel together across cultures and through time to discover how different societies have understood, valued, and cultivated the art of memory. The way we think about remembering and forgetting isn't universal. It's woven into the very fabric of cultural identity, shaped by language, tradition, and the particular needs of each community. In the Highlands of Scotland, the tradition of the Seenachie, the storyteller and keeper of clan history, represents one of humanity's most beautiful relationships with memory. These individuals carried within their minds the entire genealogical and historical record of their communities. They could recite family lineages going back centuries, recount the details of ancient battles, and preserve the exact wording of traditional songs and stories that might otherwise be lost forever. The Seenachie's memory wasn't just personal, it was communal property, a living library that belonged to the entire clan. Their training began in childhood and continued throughout their lives, with information passed down through careful mentorship and constant practice. The accuracy of their recall was considered sacred, as they were literally the keepers of their people's identity. This tradition highlights something profound about the relationship between memory and community. In oral cultures, memory isn't just a cognitive function, it's a social responsibility. The people chosen to be memory keepers often hold positions of great respect and influence, because they quite literally embody the wisdom and identity of their community. Consider the griots of West Africa, whose role combines storytelling, music, and historical preservation in ways that transform memory into art. A master griot can perform epic narratives that last for hours, complete with musical accompaniment, character voices, and intricate poetic structures. These performances aren't just entertainment. They're the means by which cultural values, historical events, and family histories are transmitted across generations. What's particularly fascinating about griot traditions is how they demonstrate the interconnection between memory and performance. The stories aren't simply recited from memory, they're recreated each time, with the griot weaving together traditional elements in response to the specific audience and occasion. This suggests that cultural memory isn't static, but rather a living, breathing entity that grows and adapts while maintaining its essential core. The Aboriginal Australians have perhaps the most sophisticated memory culture in human history, with their songlines creating a vast mental map of the continent that served simultaneously as navigation system, historical record, and spiritual guide. These dreaming tracks crisscross Australia, encoding in song and story the precise locations of water sources, seasonal changes, plant and animal behaviors, and sacred sites. To know the songs is to know the land itself. Elders in Aboriginal communities can navigate hundreds of miles of wilderness using only these memory maps, passed down through generations of careful teaching and practice. The songs describe not just physical landmarks, but the deeper relationships between land, ancestors, and community. This integration of memory with spiritual and practical knowledge creates a holistic understanding that Western concepts of memory often miss. In ancient India, the Vedic tradition developed perhaps the most rigorous memory training systems ever documented. Young Brahmin students would spend years memorizing vast collections of hymns, prayers, and philosophical texts with absolutely perfect accuracy. They developed intricate techniques involving rhythm, melody, and group recitation that could preserve texts unchanged for thousands of years. The precision demanded in Vedic memorization was extraordinary. Not just the words, but the exact pronunciation, tonal qualities, and even breathing patterns had to be perfectly preserved. This wasn't simply rote memorization, but rather a complete embodiment of sacred knowledge. The students became living vessels for wisdom that was considered too sacred to risk to the impermanence of written records. These traditional memory cultures reveal something important about the difference between memory as storage and memory as relationship. In our modern world, we often think of memory as a filing system, a place where information gets stored for later retrieval. But in oral cultures, memory is relational, connecting individuals to community, present to past, and human consciousness to the larger patterns of meaning that give life purpose. The transition from oral to written culture has profoundly changed how we relate to memory. Plato famously worried that writing would weaken human memory, making people dependent on external records rather than developing their internal capacities. His concerns, recorded by his student in the Phaedrus, suggest that even ancient philosophers understood that different technologies of preservation would shape consciousness itself. In many ways, Plato's fears have proven prophetic. Most of us today rely heavily on written records, digital devices, and external storage systems. We've gained tremendous capacity to preserve and access information, but we may have lost some of the deep, personal relationship with knowledge that characterized oral cultures. Yet different cultures continue to value memory in distinct ways. In Jewish tradition, the emphasis on memorizing sacred texts creates an intimate relationship with wisdom that goes beyond mere academic study. When someone knows the Torah by heart, they carry it with them always, able to find guidance and meaning in any situation without need for external reference. Korean and Chinese educational traditions have long emphasized memorization as a foundation for learning, believing that deep familiarity with classical texts creates a mental framework that supports all subsequent understanding. Students might memorize thousands of lines of poetry or philosophical writing, not as an end in itself, but as preparation for original thinking and creative expression. Japanese culture has preserved remarkable memory traditions in arts like kabuki and no theater, where performers must memorize not just dialogue, but precise movements, vocal techniques, and emotional expressions. The training process can take decades, creating artists who embody centuries of refined artistic knowledge. The way different languages structure memory also reveals cultural variations in how we understand remembering. Some languages have multiple words for different types of memory, distinguishing between remembering facts, remembering experiences, and remembering how to do things. Others have specific terms for collective memory, ancestral memory, or prophetic memory that don't exist in English. Indigenous cultures around the world often emphasize the idea of seven-generation thinking, making decisions based on their impact 7 generations into the future. This requires a kind of collective memory that spans far beyond individual lifetimes, connecting present actions to ancestral wisdom and future responsibility. Modern technology is creating new forms of cultural memory. Social media platforms have become vast repositories of shared experience, while digital archives preserve more human knowledge than ever before. Yet something may be lost in this transition: the intimacy, the embodied quality, the deep personal relationship with knowledge that characterized traditional memory cultures. As we explore these diverse approaches to memory, we begin to see that eidetic memory, remarkable as it is, represents just one small facet of the vast human capacity for remembering. Different cultures have developed different aspects of memory's potential, creating rich traditions that serve their particular needs and values. The evening's exploration reminds us that memory isn't just a cognitive function. It's a way of being in relationship with knowledge, community, and meaning itself. Whether through the visual precision of eidetic recall or the communal wisdom of oral tradition, memory remains one of humanity's most powerful tools for creating continuity and meaning across time. Chapter 9: Modern Mysteries and Misconceptions. In the blue glow of our screens and the rapid pace of our digital age, the idea of perfect memory has taken on almost mythical proportions. Hollywood has given us characters who can absorb entire libraries at a glance, remember every conversation word for word, and solve complex mysteries by perfectly recalling obscure details from years past. Tonight, let's gently separate these compelling fictions from the more nuanced reality of human memory, and discover why our beautifully imperfect minds might be more wonderful than any perfect recording device. The popular image of photographic memory, the idea that some people can take perfect mental snapshots of anything they see, has become so embedded in our culture that many people assume it must be real. Movies like Limitless or characters like Sherlock Holmes in recent adaptations present memory as a superpower that can be unlocked or enhanced. These portrayals are certainly entertaining, but they create misconceptions about how memory actually works. True photographic memory, in the sense of perfect, permanent visual recall of any information, simply doesn't exist. Even the most exceptional memory performers, when tested under controlled conditions, show the creative, reconstructive nature that characterizes all human memory. They might remember far more than average, but they're not operating like cameras or computers. The confusion often arises because people conflate several different phenomena. Someone might have excellent visual memory for certain types of information, strong eidetic abilities in childhood, exceptional recall developed through training, or unusual neurological conditions that affect memory formation. Each of these can seem like photographic memory from the outside, but the underlying mechanisms are quite different. Consider the common experience of feeling like you remember something perfectly, only to discover later that your recall wasn't quite accurate. This happens because memory isn't passive storage, it's an active, reconstructive process. Every time we remember something, we're not simply playing back a recording. Instead, we're rebuilding the memory from various stored elements, influenced by our current knowledge, emotions, and expectations. This reconstructive nature of memory might seem like a flaw, but it's actually one of its greatest strengths. It allows us to learn from experiences by extracting patterns and principles that can apply to new situations. It helps us update our understanding as we gain new knowledge. And it allows us to heal from difficult experiences by gradually reframing them in ways that support our psychological well-being. The fascination with perfect memory often stems from our frustration with forgetting. We misplace important information, struggle to recall names at crucial moments, or wish we could remember our childhoods with perfect clarity. In these moments, the idea of photographic memory seems like the solution to all our cognitive limitations. But research with individuals who have unusual memory abilities reveals the complexity of this wish. People with exceptional recall often report feeling overwhelmed by the constant presence of detailed memories. They might struggle to focus on the present moment when their minds are flooded with vivid recollections. They may have difficulty distinguishing between important and trivial information when everything is remembered with equal clarity. The modern world has created new challenges for understanding memory. We're constantly bombarded with information, much of it visual, and we've become accustomed to having instant access to facts through search engines and digital devices. This environment can make our natural memory processes seem inadequate by comparison. Yet neuroscience research reveals that our brains are remarkably well adapted to this information-rich environment. We're excellent at remembering the gist of things while letting go of unnecessary details. We're skilled at recognizing patterns and making connections between different pieces of information. We can rapidly distinguish between familiar and novel information, focusing our attention where it's most needed. The myth of photographic memory also overlooks the importance of meaning in human recall. We don't remember information in isolation. We remember it in context, connected to other knowledge, emotions, and experiences. This web of associations makes our memories rich and meaningful in ways that simple data storage cannot match. Modern technology offers us something approaching perfect external memory through digital records, photographs, and search capabilities. Interestingly, having access to these tools hasn't made us wish for photographic memory any less. If anything, it's highlighted the unique qualities of human memory: its creativity, its ability to make unexpected connections, its integration with emotion and meaning. The study of false memories has revealed another important truth about human recall. We can sometimes remember events that never happened, or remember them quite differently from how they actually occurred. This might seem disturbing, but it reflects the creative, constructive nature of memory that allows us to learn, adapt, and make sense of complex experiences. Social media and digital photography have created interesting new dynamics around memory. We document our lives in unprecedented detail, creating external memory banks that can supplement or sometimes conflict with our internal recollections. Some people report feeling like they remember experiences differently after seeing photographs or videos of events, suggesting that our various memory systems can influence each other in complex ways. The desire for perfect memory often reflects deeper concerns about the reliability of our own minds. In a world that values precision and accuracy, our fallible human memory can seem inadequate. But this perspective misses the profound wisdom embedded in how our minds naturally work. Our memories aren't designed to be perfect recordings. They're designed to help us navigate life effectively. They preserve what's important while letting go of what's not. They allow us to learn from the past while remaining open to new experiences. They help us maintain a coherent sense of identity while still allowing for growth and change. The comfort we find in our beautifully imperfect memories might be memory's greatest gift. The way a difficult experience gradually loses its sharp edges, the way happy memories can become even more golden with time, the way we can remember the overall feeling of an experience even when we forget the specific details. These aren't flaws in the system. They're features that help us live rich, meaningful, resilient lives. As we near the end of our midnight exploration, we find ourselves appreciating both the rarity of true eidetic memory and the remarkable capabilities of ordinary human recall. The mind's perfect photograph may be extraordinary when it occurs, but the mind's imperfect painting, full of meaning, emotion, and creative reconstruction, might be the more beautiful work of art. The story of eidetic memory reminds us that consciousness itself is still largely mysterious. These brief glimpses into extraordinary cognitive abilities, whether the vivid mental images of childhood eidetic memory, the vast recall of individuals with hyperthymesia, or the trained excellence of memory palace builders, show us that the boundaries of human potential are more flexible than we often assume. Yet they also reveal the wisdom embedded in our ordinary, imperfect ways of remembering and forgetting. As you prepare to let sleep carry you into its own realm of memory and dreams, may you find peace in knowing that your mind, with all its beautiful imperfections, its selective attention, and its creative reconstructions, is exactly as it should be. The memories you carry, the ones you've forgotten, and the ones yet to be made are all part of the ongoing masterpiece of your unique human experience. Until we meet again in these quiet hours, may your dreams be filled with the gentle wisdom that comes from understanding the extraordinary nature of ordinary memory. And may you rest in the comfort of knowing that forgetting, just like remembering, is one of the mind's most precious gifts.